In this video, I'll be fixing some issues I have with the prototype hat. In the last video, I mentioned how I was breaking wires on this hat, so I need to address it before moving further. Ever since I hooked up this prototype hat, I soldered the wires directly to the board, and which is fine until you have to start moving the hat in and out of the robot to do other work. So I'll be rerouting some GPIOs, adding a safe shutdown button, and changing all these wires to JST connectors. After labeling and cutting the wires, now I can see what I'm dealing with. I'll remove the wire ends, and then we'll look at connector placement. So here I'm going to add a 5-pin connector for the Sense hat and 3 more I2C banks, I guess I'll call them, which holds an SDA, an SCL, a 3-volt power, and a ground. I'm trying to keep these all color-coded, so I'm using my SDA as the blue wire, the SCL as the yellow wire. One I2C bank will also be used for the Sense hat. I put a 2-pin connector, which is 5-volt, for the Sense hat. I'm going to add this 3-pin connector to GPIO 5, 6, and 13. It will replace GPIO 17, 27, and 22, which is the I module. You do block off some holes using these connectors, so try to pre-plan as much as you can beforehand. So I went ahead and added a few more connectors. I put an auxiliary GPIO, which is GPIO 22, and a ground for just add-on projects. And I put another 3-volt power beside the 5-volt. I labeled some connectors so I know what they are. I also added a start button to GPIO 12. I'm going to add another ground plug, and that would be for the I module, and we'll also have access to more ground on that channel in the future. Here I'm bridging the ground to the channel where I want to add the connector. My fan uses the 5 volt and the switching ground to cool the Raspberry Pi, so I need to make sure this connector doesn't get in the way. I'll use the meter to verify that the ground is connected. So these are the wires I'm dealing with that all have to be connected to this. These wires are for the sense hat. It takes 9 altogether, 6 GPIOs and a 5 volt, 3 volt, and your ground. These 4 are for the eye module, which controls a red LED, a green LED, and a blue LED, and our ground. This is all we need to put on the connectors. So for the sense hat, we'll be using GPIO 23, 24, 25, and GPIO 8. I'll trim them all to length. I like to keep this little tab on the connectors so it's easier to hold and to get into the crimper without it falling out all the time. Here's a close-up view. So after you strip the wire, you can insert it into the connector and slowly crimp it down with the tool. Now we can install the wires into their connectors. Before cleaning up any more wires, let's plug this all in and see if it works. This is the first startup after installing the prototype hat version 2. So the Sense Hat's working, the iModule's booted up, the speakers are working, and the display screen is displaying. So far it looks okay. In the next video, I'll be looking at installing a Wi-Fi adapter to solve some Wi-Fi dropout issues while the Raspberry Pi is inside the frame of the robot.